Well, I was just going to start off with, like, how you guys met.
Yeah.
It's
How
my
did you meet?
story.
Oh, well, we met, I was 17 and you were, what were you?
20.
28?
Oh, 9 years
26.
older.
26.
9
And
years.
George's best friend was the cousin of my best friend, so I was visiting her. She was from New Zealand and she was staying with George's cousin. So I was visiting her and George came to visit his friend and that's how we met.
I knocked on the front door and Grandma answered the door and I thought, gee, she looks good.
You thought what?
Gee, she looks good.
That's a long time ago.
Wasn't there a part of you that thought that you were going to marry her?
Yeah, I did. It flashed through my mind, yeah. Yeah.
And what were you both doing before you met? What were you doing at the time?
As a
Yeah.
occupation,
Life. What were?
I worked in the bank,
Yeah.
at the ANZ Bank. What did you do? You were driving ready-mix trucks, and that's it, or owned ready-mix trucks.
Yeah, that's right.
He owned 3 ready-mix trucks. And, well, we didn't get married until I was 21, so we went out together for a long time. Took him a long time to decide.
And just be Michael. Sorry, Sandra.
I chased her and
Sorry.
You're okay.
I chased her until she caught me.
Oh, yeah.
And what was it about each other?
Pardon?
What was it about each other?
Well, there were lots of things. She was a pretty skinny little thing, and she was a good cook, and she can spell. She had a lot going for her that I didn't have. I still can't cook. And my spelling.
And the thing that interested me was the fact that he was so hard to get. And when someone's hard to get, you're just not going to give up. And I didn't give up.
No.
But no, George is very ambitious, and that's what I was looking for, someone that was not a deadbeat.
And
Yeah.
how long after where did you get married and
Oh,
and how did you propose as well?
Well, I think we went out for, 4 years or something?
Well, I was 17 till 21, yeah.
Yeah, about 4 years. So, but it was different then. You went to a dance Saturday night, or if it was a new girlfriend or something, you took her to the pictures. You know, it's different now. Well, there was a fair bit of drinking because I didn't drink, and so we went to a dance or something like that. So I used to drive all my mates home because they were all drunk. Or
They weren't allowed to have drink in the dances, but they used to go out to their cars where they'd have alcohol. But you weren't allowed drinking in those dances. There was no alcohol.
They were no drinking in the establishment. And anyway, dances were all held in the town hall or something like that. You know, they didn't have nightclubs and things like that. It's just all, or perhaps they did. We didn't know about them. So,
Yeah.
different life. Now there were very, very little drugs or alcohol. I think alcohol's always been a problem, but not like it is today. And of course, a lot of people didn't have a motor car because they couldn't afford one. But now you see our grandkids drive a car to school. You know, it's unheard of. You were lucky if you could afford a push bike, and well, your parents afford a push bike. But then I was saying I was ambitious. When I was 10 years old, I used to go round to the shops and get jobs. and earn 10 shillings a week, 2 shillings a day. But even when I was a little kid, I always had some money in my pocket, because 2 shillings would have taken you to the pictures, I think.
I can't remember.
Well, we were only kids, so.
I used to work just Saturday mornings, and I think I got 11 shillings for Saturday mornings.
Yeah, but that was a few years later too.
Yeah.
And probably a bit more generous employer. There was I think the unions were fairly strong, but not like they are today. And they, people should get paid what they're worth.
Yeah, I think that unions were strong. When I first joined the bank, they were very strong. They used to come out, and because I used to say I don't want to belong to a union, but you had to. They just forced you to, otherwise you wouldn't have a job.
Yeah,
They were very
that's
strong.
right. The only job I ever had, they made me. The boss made me join the union. Yeah, that's right.
And what were your first jobs?
Hairdresser. Wasted 5 years of my life. But if you got no retention for knowledge, then you have to do what comes along.
And how did barbering come along to you?
Well, my mother had a cousin that was in New Zealand, and he'd done extremely well. He had 2 or 3 shops, and
Your sister was a hairdresser.
Pardon?
Your sister was a hairdresser.
Oh yes, yeah, my sister was a hairdresser too.
Their mother sort of wanted them to do that.
But I before I'd finished my apprenticeship, I'd bought a car, and I was using it as a taxi. So I used to work about 100 hours a week, because I worked 9 to 5 and then 5:30 till 3 in the morning or whatever. So.
And why did you do that? What was?
Something
He just wanted to get ahead, I suppose.
Well, I'm 88 and I'm still chasing now. Why do you just gets you up in the morning, it just keeps you motivated. But,
So it wasn't necessarily about money, it was more just something to do, and or was money?
I think it's a combination of, I think when you've done something and it's been successful, it's funny, you don't wallow in it, but you feel good if it's been successful, but you go on to the next thing, then you don't, I don't, cherish what I've done, I cherish what I'm going to do. And here I am still doing it.
And what about you, Sandra? What was your first job?
I worked in the bank, ANZ Bank. Started off at the bottom as just a junior clerk, and then I ended up this ledger supervisor. But in those days, once you got married, you had to leave the bank. You couldn't be married. So I had to leave. We got married, and I had to leave the bank. So
things something that you wouldn't believe today, but when Sandra was a junior in the bank, well, first of all, women weren't allowed to be a teller.
No.
Had to be a man, and but they used to give her the posting or something, a bag full of receipts or something had to be posted for the bank, and so sometimes she had to take money, and she's about 18 years old or something, and they gave her a revolver to put in her pocket
17
to carry money. You can't believe it. A girl that had never fired a gun, didn't know what to do with it, and Gabriel, they had to carry a gun. And I've always
Shaking, Sandra,
Well, I didn't think about it. I mean, it was just, you
well,
just
talking about
stuck it in your
shaking,
pocket.
when she first joined the bank, this is things she told me afterwards because I didn't know her then, but when the phone rang, she had to answer the phone, and they didn't have a phone at home. Nobody had a phone.
I was terrified.
And she was terrified to pick the phone up and speak.
And I
on
couldn't
it.
speak. My voice just wouldn't come out.
So life's changed.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But when we got married, Sandra, they let us stay on 2 or 3 months because that was when I went and built the Tempe Bowling Centre in Whyalla. So we virtually got married, and a few weeks later we were in Whyalla building the Tempe Bowling
And we've worked
Centre.
together ever since. I worked for you ever since. So, yeah. We were only saying the other night how probably not a lot of people spend as much time together as we do, but we spend every minute of the day together, really. Yeah.
and you've formed a pretty incredible partnership.
Well, we have, yeah.
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 Well, it's. I think it's a matter of having respect, and if you both respect each other, then you're a long way towards success. But if you, for some reason or other, and I mean there's so many that fall apart, but if you happen to get a partner that's incompatible, what do you do? It's I don't know.
And to bring you back, how did you get into ready mix trucks? What was the...
I bought a first truck in 1954. No, I had 3 taxis, and like I'd built up one to another, and I met a fellow that had a big truck at the quarries, and I was fascinated with it because it was a step ahead of being a taxi, and so I bought a comma, made a mistake. I put a lazy axe on it, which means the back set of 2 wheels only have one that drive. Big mistake because you break axles. And but anyway, in 1954, I bought that truck. Then I bought another one. I bought 4 trucks from Commercial Motors, which was Crawford's. They were only a little company then, and now they're massive company and good company too. They always very well. I think to be successful, you've got to. Well, it's not a public company. I think it's privately owned still, but you've got to be nice to people constantly, always, and even sometimes when it's wrong, you like when you're doing yourself an injustice. In the long run, it's like cream comes to the top. If you do the right thing, it always shows up eventually. Sometimes a long time. But you've got to have common sense too.
So that's how you got into ready mix trucks, is it?
Oh yes, yeah. Well, actually, I couldn't get work for the tipper, so I took the tip body off, and I put a ready mix bowl on, and so I stayed there for 10 years.
You had, what, did you have 3 or something? 3 ready mix? Or 4?
Well, Peter had one, my dad got one, and I had 3, yeah. But it was a very hard way to make a living, and a lot of cost to get into it. So anyway, I sold the trucks to different ones.
To my brother-in-laws, both of them.
Oh yeah, I sold one to each.
Each.
They having one truck, and they put them in on new trucks. They did quite well actually, but I used to say the more trucks you get, the less money you make. And so if you concentrate on one truck, you can make a reasonable living. But anyway.
And then from there, did you go to Wyler?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you did a retreading factory for
Oh,
a while.
yes, yeah.
You bought a retreading.
I bought retreading equipment, and I used to retread tyres for the trucks and for other truck owners as well.
That was before we got married, and then
Yeah.
when we got married, and we went to Ireland just shortly after that.
Yeah, well, I sold the equipment to a dry cleaner actually,
Yeah.
and Mr. Nima.
Yeah.
And anyway, then we went to Whyalla. It's funny, this fellow was looking for money to build a bowling centre, and he wanted a partner. And we met this fellow, and Sandra was there, of course. Anyway, the moment he left, Sandra said, "Don't do business with that man." And boy, she said it on a few occasions. She doesn't usually insist on anything, but
Well, we did anyway. You did do business with him, and
it wiped us out almost. We ended up. The bowling centre cost £120,000, which was a massive amount of money
in
then.
those days, yeah.
And he was supposed to come up with half the money. He came up with £2,000, but he was a habitual liar, and I'd never been in business with anybody before, and well, there's a few lessons you learn. First of all, get your own lawyer. Don't use their lawyer, number one. Number two, have your name on the title, or don't, because without your name on the title, you're nobody.
Number three, take notice of what your wife says.
Oh, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I could have done it on my own anyway, because he didn't contribute, and I would have done it differently.
But then it was his idea, so you had to have some...
And big mistake, anything you look at, if it's their idea and your money, give it a miss. Anyway,
we survived.
yeah, we ended up, we paid everybody, the bank, everybody, and had £1,000 left, so back to square one. But
we bought a little caravan and an old Jeep, an old army Jeep, didn't we?
Yeah, well, it was BHP.
Was it?
An old, we bought it off BHP.
And we went off on a trip around Australia.
Yeah.
Up to
And that
Queensland.
was, it's funny, when things were going bad, I just couldn't sleep. And I was awake for about 3 months. It's hard to sort of imagine that, but it's a fact. And the day we walked out of Whyalla with everything settled was probably one of the happiest days of my life, because I was free.
When it was, we were really happy.
Money didn't matter.
And we set off, and we had a fabulous time for 6 months, touring around, working on all sorts of jobs, fruit picking and carpet cleaning. And we did all sorts of jobs, but it was so much fun. We were only young. And then I discovered I was expecting Adam. So we headed back home. Yeah,
And what did you do when you got back to Adelaide?
well,
Well, it's funny thing.
you went driving trucks.
I was thinking I'd buy a backhoe and dig swimming pools, and I went round to different companies about swimming pools, and it came back to me about my experience I just had, and I wasn't comfortable with anybody, and I was talking to my brother-in-law, one of them that I sold a truck to, and he said, "Oh, look, I just saw where a bloke's made the first swimming pool in Australia out of fiberglass." And he's down at Mount Gambier. And at 6 o'clock the next morning, I was knocking on his door.
We were at Pat and Howard's place for dinner, and Howard told us about that. On the way home, George said, "We're going to Whyalla." So
No.
Mount Gambier.
Mount Gambier.
And that's it, we did.
We went that night. I was there.
Yeah.
6 o'clock in the morning.
We had Adam as a baby, didn't we?
And anyway,
We
we
must have-
were the second ones in Australia to make a fiberglass pool. And from £1,000 that I had still left to a freehold house in Springfield with a Rolls Royce in 10 years. So
Yeah.
it's...
And tell us about Blue Dolphin. What was it? And
It was, they're still making fiberglass pools. Ours was a bit crude at the time, but my mum and dad and Sandra's mum and dad were in England because they were all Poms. Well, my mum was born here, but and they met up in England on holidays, of course, and I wrote to them and said, or to mum or dad, I don't know, what do you know about fiberglass swimming pools? And they sent information back from England because they were doing them in England.
My dad got all the information.
Oh, your dad, was it?
He got all the information,
Yeah.
brought it back for you.
Oh, was it? Yeah. Anyway, we got stuck into it and everything went right. And and that brother-in-law I sold the truck to, he came in as a half partner, and we got another partner. So there were three of us in it, and we all did very well out of it.
and how many
We
books
built
did you
1,000 swimming pools in 10 years. So, it was good.
And just from getting that idea from someone telling you to then running with it and making a business out of it,
Yeah,
it's pretty incredible.
yeah.
Yeah.
Saw it in a magazine, actually, an article about
Oh,
fiberglass.
I applied the first rule that I've stuck to for the last 50 years, 60 years. Get your name on the title. I looked at a block of land on Anzac Highway, plum spot, opposite Chrysler's at the time, and it's hard to believe, but I bought that block of land, freehold, for $11,000. No, 11 was
Yeah.
it pounds? No, it was dollars.
Dollars, Adam was born.
$11,000. And
Were you frightened about getting into business again after the?
Pardon?
Were you frightened to get into business?
No.
no.
We knew we were going
We went
to.
from zero to skyrocketing in 10 years. No, everything went right because, well, first of all, don't do anything without your name on the title, and get your house freehold and never mortgage it. We haven't had a mortgage since 1972. What's that, 60 years or something? But you've got that, I went to the bank to get money not for that one. In fact, we had people chasing us to buy shares with us, but we didn't do that. We sold the business.
Built
and
a few factories. You built a few factories.
Oh yes, we built about 19 factories, and we used to sell those, build them and put tenants in them and then sell them. If you kept them a couple of years in those days, you didn't pay capital gain, so we used to keep them long enough to get capital gain abatement.
How did you get into building? What was the first step?
Oh, I don't know. From Ready Mix, of course. I was at Ready Mix for 10 years, and I built a couple of houses myself, and that's another thing. If you build a house for yourself, your principal place of residence, you don't pay capital gains tax, which is the only thing that you don't pay tax on.
Yeah.
And so why factories?
They're quick and easy, and there was demand for them, and we did a lot around Keswick.
He built banks. How many banks?
Oh, we built 11 banks. And
National banks.
Funny, we wanted to build an office block on Green Hill Road, and I went to the bank to get some money because it was a couple of $100,000 we needed, and the bank readily loaned us the money, and we did the job so quickly and it was so profitable. The bank said, "Oh, look, we've got a bank we want renovated. Would you like to buy it, renovate it and lease it back to us?" And anyway, this went on and on and on, and they used to say, oh, this is when they're closing banks, now there's none left. But this was when they were expanding banks, and they used to say, oh, look, there's a location that we think would be a good spot. And I found 2 or 3 locations myself that I thought were good spots. And so this was all mostly for the National Bank, but they were really good to us actually. So we would buy the land, build the bank and lease it to them, and then eventually sell it off. So we did, I think, 11 banks altogether. And they were nice people to deal with. But when we bought the shopping centre site, that was owned by a different bank, so we changed banks. So we've been with them 30 years now. And they've been very nice to us too. So everybody knocks banks, but they're there to make money. And if you always do what you say you'll do, they love you. And so you don't need to change it. We've got a bank chasing us now to change. Why would you change when somebody's been nice to you for 30 years? Don't do it. In fact, I just read the Financial Review today where they're warning people about changing banks, because by the time the dust settles, you find you're not as well off as you were before. And when you sacrifice a 30-year liaison, a happy event, why would you change? So, no point.
And then, so how did Aldinga come into play?
Pardon?
What's the story behind the Aldinga shopping centre?
Oh, well, I always, because of all the building we'd done, I coveted a shopping centre, and this was just vacant land in the middle of nowhere. It's changing dramatically now with the freeways and everything, but I went to see the bank. Well, it was the Co-op then it was the Adelaide Bank, then it was the Bendigo Bank. But I went to see the bank, and I put a deal to them that they couldn't refuse. And there were about 30 people wanted the site, but it was a hard time. To interest rates were 15 to 16%. It's 1% now, 1.9%. Anyway, this appealed to them it's a long story, but I won the day for the 30, and it ended up a very generous deal they gave us, and
So we built the shopping centre.
yeah. But I remember when I went in, I had everything freehold, and they said, "Oh well, we'll mortgage your house," and we had some factories. I said, "No, if I've got to mortgage it, if this doesn't stand on its own feet, I shouldn't be doing it." And I think that probably won the day. The managing director said, "Well, what's your house worth?" And he said, no, what's it insured for? And I said, 6 million. He said, oh, okay. So all of a sudden, you want to buy the place, you got your feet on the ground, you know what you're talking about, and we won the day from the big builders, all sorts, you know. There was, I think there were about 30 wanted the place, but I just quietly slipped in and bought it, and we're still there.
And why Aldinga if it was in the middle of nowhere?
Well, because there was no others. It's hard to get something that's already zoned. Funny thing, where we lived in Springfield, a neighbour of ours, just a couple of doors down, had just gone bankrupt, owing the bank or the co-op, I don't know how much, but he
was going to do it, wasn't
he had the land taken off him, and I just happened to see this in the paper, and it was the closing day that day on the sale. So I whizzed straight in with the agent, and on driving in, I had the deal all worked out, and I said to the agent when we got there, I don't want you to come in with me, I want to see the bank on my own. And he got pretty nasty about that, and I said, look, if I do the deal, you'll get your commission, don't worry, which he did. And but I didn't want him to hear what I had to say. And so, not that there was anything untoward, I just made some guesses that were dead accurate, and here we are 30 years later, still going.
What about Mile End? How did that come about?
No, well, that's a friend of Robin's, really. He said, Farmers Union have spent their budget, they've done a $54 million factory at Salisbury, and they've still got a couple of depots they've got to do. And the depot, their main depot in town was, well, they still had the factory there, was Mile End. So I went around to see the managing director the next morning, and he wasn't the managing director, he was the state manager, Rocco Galuccio, nice guy. And I put a deal to him. I said, I'll buy the whole place, and I'll build the new factory that you need for distribution, and you'll have the rent paid for the next few years, because I'll buy the whole place. And I went to my favourite bank, and I said, I want $5 million. And in about 7 minutes, they said, yeah, that sounds all right. So we did the same little trick again. And we've had that 20 years. And it's paid for.
And why Mile End? What was attractive about it?
Mile End, you can't miss. It's 2 miles from the post office. The centre of town. It's worth 7 times more than I paid for it. It's without any improvements. It's, you know, it's just a... Dale Carnegie said, young man, buy land. They're not making any more. So,
It's true. What about the kids? Tell us stories about Robin and Justin and Adam.
oh, well, they all went to private school. They had all a bit spoiled. All had to work hard, and they still have to work hard. Here's my granddaughter, one of my granddaughters, working harder than ever.
Yeah, we at one stage, not so much now, and I think we had about 11 members of the family working in the business.
Yeah.
But they've all sort of, a few of them have pulled out.
Well, they don't actually work. In a way, it's a strange thing, really. They're sort of all partners. They haven't realised it yet, I don't think. But
well, only because...
It's all tied up. They're all partners.
Well, just the three, there's the 3 children and us are equal shares, quarter shares. So their families, of course, that's up to them.
Yeah. And why did you do that? What was the...
Well, because long before I had married and had kids, I wanted 2 sons and a daughter, and I wanted to all work together, and it just happened to work that way. I think they probably hate me for it, but it's. I suppose really I'm a bit shy and backward, but I get my own way.
Shy and backward.
But it's only because a policy, if it's not right, don't do it. And you get caught sometimes, but the first principle in being successful in business, total honesty. And if you can't be totally honest, you're in the wrong business. So, and you still get ripped off, and just don't go to court. It's a mug's game.
And how early did Robin, Justin and Adam start working in the company? And what were they doing?
Well, Adam, it's funny, he was always very keen. He'd come out on the factories with me, digging foundations and when he was 10 or 12 years old. And he was always keen. And Justin was a bit more laid back, but they all got their strengths and weaknesses, and they're all good kids.
Well, Adam worked for us right from leaving school, really. But Robin, she got different jobs. She worked for a lawyer for a while, but once she married Mark, who had a truck, and Mark came in with us, so that's how. And then, of course, Justin, he did an apprenticeship with the carpenter that did all the work around here. And then he came with us too. And after that, all the grandchildren, one after the other, we've got more working.
I think really for a lot of people say, how on earth do you make it work with the family? Well, you've got to be generous to everybody. And I say to all the kids, be generous to each other, because you do a favour, it'll come back twice. And you've just got to always, well, for the family, I think, there's an old saying, to be successful, you've got to be kind to yourself, kind to your family, kind to your friends, in that order, and kind to everybody if you can, but in that order. But number one, you've got to get it right for yourself, or or you'll never make it. Anyway.
Well, I think the best part with Charlotte, she feels like if she works hard, she benefits everybody. I
Yeah,
think that's the best bit to a family model, is that
yeah,
if something goes well, it benefits everybody.
that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
She's doing a wonderful job. We're very, very proud of her.
Yes, actually, I'm. Every day something bobs up. You know, she's just like that car business yesterday. She comes up with. She's
Different ideas. Yeah.
beat my expectation. Not that I'm saying you weren't very capable, but I'm very, very proud of you, dear. As I am with all of them.
Yeah, they've all done really well. We've been very, very lucky
Yeah.
with our children and grandchildren that none of them have ever
No
gone off
drugs or
yeah, gone off the
it's,
straight and narrow road.
there's terrible temptations now, and people say it's hard. Life's hard. Life was never as easy. I mean, you just look at it now. If you can't pay your rent, the government pay it for you. And
And interest rates are so low.
Huh?
Interest rates are so low at present.
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
you know, it makes it easy, but it's still
But
hard
the
enough.
money is, well, of course we're living in a chosen land, but I mean, you look at parts of Africa and Asia and that, where they're dying of starvation. Well, I don't know, you can only live your own life and do the best you can, as I say, for yourself, your family, your friends, and general. Try and do the right thing anyway. Anyway.
And what about the story with this place? How did the castle
Oh,
come about?
there's Sandra again. She was out with her girlfriend and she drove past. I've always known this place, of course, because when I was a kid, I used to ride my bike up around, and they had a big galvanised iron fence right through, because it was 90 acres, and you know, sneak and look over the fence. And anyway, the opportunity came to buy it, and so we did.
It was burnt out in the 1985 what year was it? 1983 bushfires, wasn't it?
Oh yes, it was burned out in the bushfire, that's right. And of course we bought it burnt out. The coach house, the lodge, the main house, a little cottage.
Bought it from John Benathan. There's 90 acres, was it? No.
90, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was built by Sir Thomas Elder. He didn't have any family. He died, I think it was sold to Benathans 17 years later. They had it for about 70 years, and we've had it for about 36 or 37 years now. So, and we restored it, of course.
And we've loved living here. It's
Yeah.
been absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
Yeah.
No, so we've been really lucky. We're very, very lucky. And
But it's your instigation that we bought it, really. But Springfield was getting a bit small for us, and
I just was never really. I loved Springfield, but I knew it wasn't the final place. I didn't want to live there. There's a lot of bitchiness amongst all the women and that in Springfield. It's
it's a small community,
sort
really.
of a closeted community.
You know everybody that lives there,
and
you know them by name.
it wasn't my scene, really.
one of those rare
I belonged
places.
to all the different things, but it really wasn't my scene. And when I came up here and saw this place and the beautiful view and the isolation, although not far away, I went back and told George about it. And the next day we came out to have a look. Of course, it was burned out, and I said, "Oh, it's just a huge job." We snuck in here because you weren't allowed to, but we did, and walked around the place, and it was complete ruins. George said, "Oh, it's a piece of cake."
Boy.
And so with that, we contacted John Benithan, and yeah.
And what was the process like?
No,
rebuilding? What was the process like rebuilding? How did you do it? And
Oh, just another day
and the boys
in our
helped.
life.
All the
The
kids
boys
helped.
Justin was just leaving school,
Yeah,
wasn't he?
he was.
Adam,
He was
Adam
only.
was working with me,
Justin was 14.
and no, everything just went well.
We just. It was a,
And
just a
this,
hobby job, really. But
this
you-
place it was built 1885, and it's never had a mortgage. It had 3 owners and never had a mortgage. So, so when the bank said, "I'll give you a mortgage," that insulted me. It's not going to happen, which it didn't need to be. So,
Yeah.
and how long did it take you to rebuild?
it took us. Well, we did the 3 cottages. Well, the coach house, the lodge, and
The apple cottage.
About 3 or 4 months, because they were all just the walls standing, but they were in good condition. And then, so because we had to sell our house to pay for this one, and I think we
lived in the coach house for
yeah, that's
probably
right.
about.
We got the coach house finished.
We were living
quickly,
there and doing this
and
place
we-
up.
Of course, the
Took
family
about
was
12
a lot smaller
months.
then, and
Took about 12 months, but we were on site the whole time, so it was
But
great.
then we took us about a year to restore this one, because there's 15 rooms and 5 stories high. It's, it's. But we all got stuck in, and we did our own work as well. We were building.
This was a hobby job.
I think we were doing factories and things.
Banks, you were doing banks and things,
banks,
and then
yeah.
you sold the banks and
Yeah.
did Aldinga.
So,
Well, that's that.
yeah, we've bored you silly.
Was it easier or harder than you thought to build?
Pardon?
Was it easier or harder of a project than you thought?
It was easy, really.
Was it?
We didn't really, building this place, we didn't really have many problems, did we?
No.
No, it went to.
No.
I remember my dad coming to have a look at it, and he said, "George has got a heart like a lion to tackle this," and he did have heart like a lion. But it went well.
A lot of help, a lot of good help.
The kids were terrific. All the kids were fantastic.
They still are.
Oh,
Nothing's changed.
No. We couldn't have done
Everybody's
it without
getting a lot
the
easier
kids, without
now.
the children.
And what about the story with your Rolls Royce? Do you want to tell why you wanted that Rolls and?
Oh, the old one, yeah. Oh, there's a bit of a folly, really. But I always wanted an old vintage Rolls Royce, and that one's 1926, and it was just. It was going, but it was almost a wreck. And anyway,
It's just a chassis, wasn't it?
well,
With a
the
big-
engine, it was drivable. We actually drove it here. But I was going to restore it myself, and after having trucks, I took the front wheels off to start with the front bearings, and I had grease up to my elbows, and I thought, no, I've done all this before, no way. So I decided it would be a checkbook restoration. So I got the right people, and it cost about $600,000 to restore it. So, and that's 15 years ago. So it's very expensive. Rolls Royce was probably you couldn't get a dearer car to restore, because everything was done to perfection, really. It was amazing. 1926 Rolls Royce really was amazing. So but it's one day, if the kids keep it long enough, it'll get its money back perhaps, but it's worth a lot less than it paid, than it costs. But it's been a hobby, and people do admire it, and so...
And what were your dreams as a kid? Did you want all this, or did you have any dreams as a kid? Did you want all of this, or did it sort of
it just evolved, really.
When we first got married, George said to me, "One day I'm going to live in Springfield and own a Rolls Royce." And I didn't even know anything about Springfield. So he took me for a drive around Springfield and said, "This is where we're going to live." And I thought, "Oh yeah." And within a few years we were there. It was amazing, really. And then we had the Rolls Royce, and ever since we've had a Rolls Royce, really. Yeah.
Oh, that was a later model, though, wasn't it?
Oh,
The
yeah,
old
no,
one?
no, that wasn't a vintage one, that was a good one.
Yeah.
But we've had several Rolls Royces, and then the Bentley, but we've been very lucky. Things have just fallen into place. And I guess that's probably not luck, really. It's what you put into it. I don't know.
Take notice of what your wife tells you. Very important. Even if it's just for a peaceful life.
If it's what?
If it's just for a peaceful life. No, you've never made any real demands apart from this place. You really did want this place, and I almost gave up on it at one stage, and you
I know.
had your nose out of joint.
We were at
so I
Springfield,
pressed on.
and he'd said, "No, that's it, we're not getting it." So I just said, "Right," and I went out and I walked around. It was night time. I walked around Springfield for a couple of hours crying, and then I went home, and I don't know what changed your mind.
Well, it was the right thing to do. It was
Because he said definitely not, we're not having it.
probably one of the best deals we've ever done anyway. It's, every deal. It's funny, we've never done a deal apart from the bowling centre that's lost money. And that was only because I trusted somebody and
We learned
I'll be very careful.
we learned a good lesson out of that.
Yeah.
Never did anything silly like that again.
Yeah.
Can't trust people. You've got to be in control yourself.
And was it a long process buying this house? Because I can imagine, did they want to sell straight away?
Well,
Actually, they didn't have it up for sale.
no, it wasn't.
Benithan, he started Santos back years and years ago, and he tried to. He was a nice bloke. He was about 90 when I bought this off him, and we became friends. He asked me about a couple of deals. He had property all over the place, but he went to the government and said, "I'll donate this to as a park or something if you give us a tax break on Santos." Or that's what he told me.
They wouldn't.
And they said, "Go away." And so
we actually contacted them. This wasn't, it had been burnt out, of course. And George rang John up and said, "Are you interested in selling it?" And he said, "Oh, I haven't really thought about it, but he arranged to meet you up here."
yeah.
And
But he didn't come up that day. The
was too hot.
temperature was 90 degrees.
and he said,
And he said, "Oh, I'm too old. I'm not driving up there today." He drove up himself and at a later date. But he was a real
good.
gentleman.
he
lovely fellow.
wanted to sell it, but his
The family did.
his son, Hannibal, his name wasn't in favour at all of selling it. But John said, "Well, it's going to be sold, and that's that." Then we had to negotiate a price, which was always a bit hard, wasn't it? John
yeah,
was
it
all
a
right,
bit
but
of-
Hannibal was. He
Yeah.
didn't. Yeah.
Anyway, we did a satisfactory deal. So
Yeah.
And where's the future for everything? Where's the family in the future?
Who
well,
knows?
my ice is very thin now. So who knows?
No, yeah, that's.
My great grandfather was just over 100 when he died. I was 1 year old and he was 100 years old. So I'd like to emulate that, but I don't know whether I'll quite make it. So,
But I don't know what the future is for this place. Is that what you mean?
oh,
For
Yeah,
everything,
yeah. Who knows?
Yeah. Is there
It's-
anything that you want? Is there...
I'd like to think that it could remain in the family, but whether, I don't know, that's something that the children have got to work out, really.
well, everything
I don't-
goes to the three directors. The three directors that are left, Adam, Robin and Justin. And then it's up to them to do the best they can, whether they sell up or keep going, but then they've got to look after their children and so on and so on. Maybe. Who knows?
This house it's sort of not a house that, it's not a very livable house for a family, really. I mean, it's been fine for us, and we don't use many of the rooms, but it's, if you know what I mean, it's to bring small children up here, I don't think it'd be very sensible.
Actually, during the Second World War, the army confiscated this, and they had it was army barracks because the billiards room, and they had a lot of people living here, I believe. So I haven't chased it up, but that was what John was telling me anyway. John Manifton.
Yeah, there's a few funny stories about the place. There's all sorts of different rumours, and people have got different ideas. And no one really knows the ins and outs of it.
Well, the ghost story here from you, apparently.
You know the ghost story, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell it?
Oh, I don't know. Not really. I think everyone knows it.
Well, I thought it was abandoned and haunted before I met Charlotte. I didn't think anyone lived here.
No,
No, well,
I think a lot of people did
when
think
it
it was
got burnt
haunted.
out, there was nobody here,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they had a caretaker here for years and years and years. I believe old bloke lives here, but I remember John telling me when he was a little boy, and he's been dead, but he was 90 when he died. He was saying that his grandfather used to pay, they had a picket fence right round the driveway, not a picket fence, post and wire fence, and his grandfather used to pay him $1 a post every Christmas to paint them white. So,
Yeah. And what was it like having the kids here when you first moved in?
Well, really, only Justin was the only one that lived here. Adam was, he was married before we moved in here, so he was living with me, and so was Robin. Really, we were still living in the coach house when Robin got married, so there was only Justin here, and he lived in the bedroom at the tower, the first bedroom at the tower.
up on the 3rd floor.
So the rooms above that have never ever really been used. I had visitors out from England and they all stayed up there once, but that's about all. So
Michael lived there for a while.
Michael
and
lived
he's
it. That's right, he
yeah,
did.
doing uni.
he lived in the first room, which was Justin's room, but Justin had gone by then. Yeah.
And what was it like having all the family up here at Mount Lofty?
Oh, it's been very convenient, really,
It's
because
fabulous,
you
really.
you can get down to Adelaide in 20 minutes, and
Well, it's with all the different houses, it's been great. All the little cottages and things. You know, it's been terrific. When someone needed
Well, they put
needed
the
a house,
tunnel
it was
through
there.
that made it a bit quicker. So
What did they do then?
they put the tunnel through, you know.
Oh, yeah.
That was, McMahon did that. A friend of mine, big earth mover they were, and they put the tunnel through. In fact, he rang me up and he said, we're joining the tunnel. They went from both ends, and he said, we're joining the tunnel today. Would you like to come and have a look? I'll come up and pick you up. I've got new rolls. And he came up and picked me up and took me down, and we drove into the tunnel, just beginning, and they were just opening it up from there.
And they lined up.
Yeah.
They lined up.
Yeah.
Oh yes,
Perfect.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you know, things
How
are
did
so
they do that?
accurate now. But I think they've always been. When you look back at tunnels and things they've done in England back 200 years ago, amazing the work they did.
With the tunnel that went from England to France, we were over there, they'd finished it. And on the side of the road, there's this huge big drilling machine that they drilled the tunnel with. And it said, for sale, one only.
No, owned by a little
No,
old
it
lady
didn't
or
say.
something
It
like
didn't
that.
say that. He said owner only.
Oh yeah. That was a tunnel, you know, under the channel.
Yeah.
That's a feat in itself, isn't it? What's
It's
that?
huge.
20 miles or something?
Oh, I don't know how long about that. Yeah, but it's a huge. It was a huge, big, round thing
Yeah.
for
It's a
sale.
great big auger.
Yeah.
It just turned. They use them a lot now. It's
Mm.
mm.
No.
Anything else? Any tips for the future? Anything that I mean, you're always pretty good with giving us wise words.
Wise words. Any wise words to finish off?
To thine own self be true.
And look after each other. Yeah,
Yes,
be kind.
yeah.
Be kind.
Yeah.
If George and I ever had an argument, which we very rarely did, really, but of course everybody does, and I would, sulk for a few days, George would never allow. He would, the minute the argument was over, that was it as far as he was concerned. He never held a grudge.
No.
And I used to think he'd be so nice to me, and I'd think, how can I be cross with him when he's so nice? So there you are.
It's a good tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Excellent.